evening and really being an advocate for this project, as well as the Parks and Rec Advisory Board member, Meredith Levy. Thank you so much for both of you for attending this evening and also really advocating for this project for the community. So just to be aware that in the chat, we have placed a link for you all to sign up. If you want to keep in touch with this project, you can add your email address. We will update you with any project updates throughout the length of this project. But feel free to also visit our website at denvergov.org. I'm sorry, denvergov.org/park projects. There we'll have kind of some updates that you can regularly check as well. But this is a project through Denver Parks and Rec, but we have our consultant team through Logan Simpson as well, who will be presenting this evening with some improvements that we're looking to make to the playground and the basketball court. So I will go ahead and hand that off to Steve, if you're ready.
Hello, my name is Steve Sigler, and I'm a landscape architect with Logan Simpson, and there are 3 other of my staff members with me on the call here that will explain further. But we'd like to just give you a general introduction to what we'd like to do today. And overall, the basis is we want to show, first of all, where the park exists now, the amenities that are there, and kind of get a general understanding of then where the community wants this design to go. So the rest of the slides are providing basically options, selections. None of the design has been done at this point. It's more information gathering and getting your input on how you see where the priorities are and the styles that would fit for the neighborhood park themselves. So then we'll follow that up with a live survey that will give you instructions how to input your choices into that, and then provide next steps such as the timeline when you can expect to see progress made on the park. So this is just general of the 4 key players. Stephanie would like to introduce as the Denver manager the planning manager for Denver Parks. And then, like I said, I'm Steve Sigler, and we have Amanda Castelli and Kevin Small, who are experts at park design and giving exactly what you want. So the general starting point for the project, we have a breakout of how the budget that's available will be spent just from the original thoughts of what's working well in the park and what is not working well. So some of the improvements will be grading and drainage so that we don't have ponding and puddles in the sports fields, both the soccer field and the baseball field. And also improvements to the playground, ADA accessible play equipment, updated play equipment, and then possibility of whether we have 2 playgrounds or upgrade the basketball facilities as well. And so that's some of the input that we want to get from you guys today. So with that, the 3 goals we're really looking for are, first of all, just to get the layouts and the equipment options, but more importantly, the input, how you see this park and how you'd like it to fit your neighborhood. And the major project timeline is we're starting now. And so none of the design decisions have been made. We're in the initial phases for discovery and how to design this. We'll be working through input we get in this public meeting today to start developing some plans and some layouts. So that will happen in April, working through the drawings and documents into December, and then beginning construction in January of next year. So anticipating a fully done park May of next year, which is pretty exciting.
Okay, great. Well, Steve, like Steve said, my name is Amanda, and I'm gonna take everyone through the rest of the presentation here through, the existing conditions as well as the layouts, options, and some play equipment styles. As it might have been mentioned before, this public meeting is live. We are recording it, and it's available on the website listed there on the slide, www.denvergov.org/park-projects. We also have an online survey available, and we're going to add that to the chat as well. So even after this presentation, if you'd like to give more feedback, we'd love to hear from you. If you'd like some more time with the images that you see, feel free to go online and take the survey. So for today, if you do have questions, we're asking you to hold those till the end of the presentation. We'll have a question and answer period. But if you do have a question as we go through, feel free to use the chat. And the chat button on Zoom, you just tap the screen there to make the control bar appear. Tap on participants, and at the bottom of the list, tap chat, and then you can go ahead and tap in or type in your question as it comes to mind. So to begin, you may be familiar with Verbena Park, but in general, Verbena has one playground. It has an adjacent basketball court. It has a soccer field as well as a baseball field with several access points coming in from the neighborhood. The playground is dated. It needs to be updated. The access ramp needs to be replaced for ADA accessibility. The play structures are dated, and we will be replacing the play surfacing as well and ensure that the play pit is draining properly. The basketball court is also in need of repair. It is undersized. The asphalt surface needs to be repaired with the cracks, as well as a difference in grading on the court. We will fix that as well. And then we also want to ensure that we're keeping a minimum buffer between the court and the walkway so we don't have user conflicts. So I'm gonna walk you through two layout options here. Again, like Steve said, these are not concepts. This is just a way to look and see what actually fits on the site and look at two layout options for the park. The first one is layout option A. And in this option, we have a full-size basketball court in the same location as the existing one, as well as some seating around the basketball court for spectator seating and just visitors. We also will maintain the current play pit in this layout option, reuse those curb walls, add a new play ramp. And in this option, we also have the ability to expand the play pit for a toddler play area. So we can separate the age groups. 2 to 5 year olds, have a different play ability than 5 to 12 year olds. So 5 to 12 year old equipment focuses a lot on strength and agility and activity, and the toddler equipment is more their size, more their ability. So that is about it for this layout option. It's keeping things as is, but also just separating the play groups. We are maintaining most of the trees. In this option, I believe if we do expand the play pit, we would lose one tree for that toddler play pit. And we would also, in general, be updating all, the amenities, seating, trash cans, etc. So layout option B is just slightly different. In this option, we do not have a basketball court. So in this option, we're really just focusing on creating Verbena Park as a playground and really have the ability and the budget to expand the play pits as needed and give kind of equal play opportunities to toddlers and the 5 to 12 year old groups. So in this option, instead of where the basketball court currently is, there would be a 2 to 5 year old playground play pit with ample seating for parents to watch over their kids. And it's separated from the 5 to 12 group, but still in close proximity. And we would have plenty of room to, create a intermediate plaza there at the 5 to 12 year old play pit and not remove any trees. So within each option, we can apply any the themes that may come up in the community that the community would like to see. What we're going to do now is just present several play equipment style and options for the community just to get the conversation started. So the first play equipment style is just inspired by net climbing. It's an alternative to the post and platform play equipment, maybe the traditional equipment that you see now in the park. It really challenges kids to use their upper body strength and their mobility and problem solving skills. This is the first net climbing style. We're calling it Net Climbing Style 1. Dynamo is the company. And this company really specializes in net climbing and connecting components. So in any of these options, we will address all age groups and as well as some ADA accessibility. So really, we're just trying to get a feel for what style the community would like to see, and then we will come back and present a final concept plan. So the next net climbing style is style 2, and this is landscape structures. And they're very well-known company, and they make really great play equipment. And again, it incorporates a lot of different abilities here and challenges with the ropes and climbing structures, as well as an agility course. You can see that in this concept as well, or this image, sorry. It's a different style, but it's instead of long and linear, this is a more compact net climbing structure. And the toddler age group in this, for this company, that would more than likely be a little scaled back for them. And then the next net style is style 3, Burliner. And again, it's just another option, different type of style, a little more modern, but incorporates a lot of the same similar components.
Hey, Amanda, I apologize for interrupting, but we're having trouble with our Spanish interpretation. So I'm going to hit end on the interpretation, not on the meeting. So nobody go anywhere. And I will restart it. So you might just see the globe pop up again and you can choose your language.
Well, I will wait for you to say.
Okay. Okay, well, if that did not work, then we're going to have to do without Spanish for the night, which I apologize for. But you can select your language and then we can go ahead and continue.
Okay, great. Do you want me to go back or just continue forward?
You can continue.
Okay, great. Well, that was the last net climbing style. You know, some of them are similar, but this one looks a little bit more modern. And as you can see in the front of the image, that is an example of more of a younger toddler net climbing structure with a little slide. And in the background, you see a net climbing structure that would be more for the older kids, 5 to 12. The next options you will see are nature inspired. So these are will not be as modern looking. Really, the inspiration here is looking at nature in terms of materials and just feel and imagination. This first nature inspired play option we're calling style 1 here. Is again from Landscape Structures. This one is an example of how we can really theme a playground. I asked them to give an example of a Colorado adventure. So, you know, what do kids get to do in Colorado? They get to ski, they get to be outdoors and camping, things that might appeal to kids and really spark their imagination. And even though this leans towards more the traditional post-in platform, it really is imaginative and is customizable. but nature inspired. The second style option, not sure I can see that on my screen, is style 2 here. And this is a little bit more of a combination of that post and platform play, as well as rocks that are inspired by nature, bouldering, climbing. They're made of concrete, but made to look like tree stumps and boulders and arches and creatures, bears. So this is a good kind of in-between option that we see and use quite a bit. You know, this image, I think it's important to point out that there are alternatives to swings. I know swings are very important as a parent, especially for the toddlers, but for the older kids, we do have some alternatives, such as these basket swings, which are nice and also very good for group play. And the last style here, to just, it'll let me. Again, this company is Berliner. This is just reimagining nature play, more the treehouse idea. So it's a kind of a combination of nature play and the net climbing structures, but really, again, challenges kids with their agility, mobility, and strength. So at this point, I think it's a good to get some public feedback and do a live poll if possible. So I'm gonna need some help with that, but
Yes, give me 1 second.
yeah, that's okay. Let me know when you are ready.
Okay.
We just want to get a feel for what everyone here, you know, just their reaction to the images, if they are, what they're inspired by, if they like what they see.
We're getting some great comments in the chat, and we did have one comment about a submarine would be nice, and then you have the one screen with the canoe. So that's our Colorado version of the submarine, right? But yeah, please keep the comments coming in the chats. We're also taking those into consideration as far as what we hear back from you, and then you'll have your option to poll in just a second.
Yeah, apologies. I had to give my power over to try and figure out this interpretation issue, and now I need just to get that back, and we
No
will
worries.
move on to the poll. Okay.
Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, you should all be seeing a poll that says, does the neighborhood need a basketball court? Yes or no? And then I will show you the results when it's done.
Great. And this question kind of goes back to the layout options and budget. You know, how can we best use our budget and also give the community what they need, what they desire.
Okay, it's slowing down. If you have a vote, go ahead and vote now. I will hit end in just a minute, a second. Okay. I'm gonna hit end. There we go.
Okay. So does the neighborhood need a basketball court? 100% say yes. Okay, good to know. Okay, and so then for our second live poll question here, just from what you have seen, and this doesn't have to be your final answer. Like I said, we'll have some question and answers at the end and the survey as well, if you want to provide additional feedback, but which layout would you choose? I guess if everybody wants a basketball court, layout option A is going to be a winner, but we can also combine.
And there are also some comments in different types of play that may not necessarily be a basketball court. So that'll be interesting to see as well. But for now, the question, what layout option would you choose? Layout A or layout B? right, I think we're missing a few people. Get your last vote in. Yeah, I think this chat conversation is going to be really interesting for us to read, for sure. Okay, I'm going to hit close. If you need to vote, vote now.
Okay. Okay, which layout option would you choose? 82% say layout A and 18% say layout B. Okay, great. And we have one more, I think, here. Steve, do you mind reading that? I have too many pop-ups here on my screen.
Yeah, so question 3 is, which play equipment style do you prefer?
Okay, yeah. Which play equipment style do you prefer? And then below we have, you know, 1, 2, and 3 under A, and 4, 5, and 6 under B.
And just a quick note, if the poll pops up over the pictures, if you're on a computer, you can drag that to one side or the other to see the pictures behind that corner with the number.
Okay, great. And maybe you like more than one, and that's completely fine. And but if there's one that particularly speaks to you.
Okay, we might be at the end, but if you haven't voted yet, vote now. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm going to end and show results.
All right, so which play equipment style do you prefer? 62% of our participants say number 1, which is the dynamo, which was one of the net climbing styles. Number 2, number 3 did not get any votes. Number 4 got 23%, and that was our landscape structures, kind of Colorado adventure inspired. And number 5 got 62% of the votes, which is the nature play inspired with the climbing structures and rocks. And number 6 got 23% of the votes, which is the Berliner treehouse style. So thank you everyone for kind of that quick feedback. We will, like, as I mentioned before, we do have an online survey, and you can feel free to log into that if you want to provide additional feedback, share the link with other neighbors. I believe that's in the chat as well. We would love to hear what you think. So at this point, we're going to open it up for some of those questions. Maybe we can answer some of the questions from the chat. So feel free to click on the chat icon at the bottom of the screen and type in a question if you have one. And just let me know if let's see.
Amanda, can you see the questions, or I can read a few of them to you?
Yeah, I was gonna go through them. Well, why don't you pick a couple there and go through some, Kevin?
And
Great.
if I miss one, yeah, I apologize. You can maybe type it in at the end. We'll get back to it because a lot of these are comments and some are questions. But the first one here is for Amanda or Steve. Can you speak to the inclusion and accessibility for all of these styles? I know that Denver Parks and Recreation is working on an inclusive play strategy.
A lot of these play equipment options are ADA accessible. And that's something that we will continue to work through as we design the play pits and playgrounds, is to definitely ensure that we have those ADA accessible components in the playground. And also just by replacing the surfacing from sand to EWF and ensuring that we have a proper ADA ramp, we we will be addressing that in the design.
Okay, another one here. That first one was from Meredith. This one's from Deb. Is there room to put the basketball court elsewhere to accommodate enhanced playground and separate basketball court from the playground?
There.
You want me to
Oh,
take
go
it?
ahead, Steve. Sure.
So the park right now is the space that's maximized for the soccer field, since they are permitted use areas. So it can't encroach any further on anything on the soccer fields themselves or the baseball field. So part of the improvements will be, like I said earlier, improving the drainage in those areas, but we need to still hold the same space, minimal for them. So we're looking at, you know, the surfacing. We want to take away the basketball court, demolish the paving that's there now, because it's beyond its lifespan. So if we're removing something there, it seems like the best expense, the best way to maximize the budget is to keep the same area, same location generally for the basketball court. The other option is if we wanted to add the 2 to 5 play pit area, that could be expanded to the south of the existing play pit. So that's a possibility. There is drainage, a large drain in that area, or outlet in that area as well. So there are some constraints that we have to deal with, that we don't want to incur expenses for relocating utilities or anything like that. We want to get you guys the amenities, spend the money on amenities and not infrastructure.
Okay, ready for another one?
Sure.
This next question is from Brendan, and he has asked if we could have a conversation about what else we need besides a basketball court, and then mentioned that the basketball court should be protected. And that in a lot of these comments that are not specific questions, many of them do address that the basketball court is heavily used.
Okay, that's good to know. In terms of other play options, that's kind of what the question is, right? Other than just a play pit and playground equipment and basketball court, I think it's being mindful, I think, of the budget and the scope of the project. We would love to give everybody everything that they would like to see and hear, but you know, if there are alternatives out there that we want to talk about and kind of price out and lay out on the site, I think, you know, this is the time to bring them up and put them in the chat.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda, but you have questions within the survey that they can go to. They can provide input as to other options that we did not cover today.
Yep, I'm seeing, you know, somebody mentioned parkour, and that's what I think, you know, the net climbing kind of style is kind of would include some of those parkour, you know, inspirational pieces and movements. I think in one of the net climbing styles, we had more of an agility course, you know, so that it is slightly parkour. You know, somebody else also mentioned music. And there are pieces that we can add that play music and sound. So that's a great suggestion. Big slides, spinny things. Somebody also mentioned volleyball is played a lot at this park, and would love to see a pump track too, for a safe place for kids to ride bikes. So those are just some of the things that people are putting out there in the chat. Are we missing any of the questions there?
And I may be missing some of them, but we have one here from Danielle that says, any thoughts about adding adult workout equipment? It's common to see people at this park bring their own weights to work out.
Yeah, that's one that a lot of parks are going to. I would caution that one train of thought on that is they're very expensive, usually pieces of equipment, and the maintenance on them is a key issue. A lot of times they need upkeep, and so the upkeep is the tough thing on them. They'll break down, and it'll be a while before anybody knows they're broken down or getting parts to fix them and that kind of thing. So I would say one area of caution in thinking about that.
Another question that just came through from Jamie says, I feel like a lot of us are commenting on how to create a space that is inclusive of all of the populations and cultures that use the park.
Mhm.
How are we ensuring that this process is inclusive of folks who may not be able to attend these types of meetings?
I can take on that one if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, we're trying our best, especially during COVID times, to reach as many people as we possibly can. It's very difficult when we're limited to a virtual setting. And obviously our attempts to provide interpretation services tonight were not the best, given that Spanish cut out for a moment. But we're always looking for some suggestions that you all have. We record this meeting and we will post it online to be watched at a later time if this time is not open for other folks. But if people are having trouble accessing like the survey because they don't have access to a computer, we can certainly print out some surveys. We can come to community meetings that are already being held and present there or hand out surveys in a different form, if that's something that your community sees as something that would be advantageous. But really, we're looking to community members to help us understand what works best for your community. Every neighborhood's different. They're not always consistent in how they like to receive information or how they like to participate. So if you have any suggestions, please let us know. Please also participate in the survey if you can. Share the survey with as many people as you can, and we can get as much participation so we're getting a large voice that's really representative of your community.
Yeah, and I would add to that, we and the councilman, I see some chat is going on things that we've done, but it's never enough. Honestly, we need more hands. So what helps for me and to be able to be a good community relations support is to get a connection. So if you have a child at a school nearby and you know that there's a newsletter that goes out, we might have emailed them, but it didn't register for some reason. So we would love a personal connection to say, hey, I know the principal, I want to connect you personally, etc. So I will put my email in the chat. And if somebody has a connection and you want to make sure we don't miss it, please email me after this meeting.
Okay, great. Are there anything that we missed?
I have a couple of things. You're talking about a jumping place as part of the design? That's something you would like? Okay. When you were talking about a place for kids to ride bikes, it made me think that is an excellent idea. My son and I sometimes ride our bikes at Verbena Park. We also like to ride sometimes at the reservoir across 11th Avenue from there. And I don't know if this is within the scope of the project, but one difficulty, Max, can you please? Thank you. One, it can be difficult getting across 11th Avenue on our bikes to go from one to the other. And I don't know if some infrastructure to improve that, to make that more accessible, is within the scope of the project, but that's something that would be good. I also wonder, when you were talking about outreach and different members of the community be involved. I wonder if you've canvassed at the park at all.
We have 3 signs up at the park with a link to the survey and a QR code that links to the survey and had information about this meeting.
And I assume those signs are multilingual.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of, as you know, of course, you know, that's an area with a lot of immigrants from a lot of different places.
The one question is whether the snowstorm came in pretty close to after the signs were posted. So we have yet to check to see the survival through through the feet of snow.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of whether the scope for this project, you know, in terms of getting across 11th Avenue, I think that would be outside the scope of this project, but with, you know, staff from Denver, they're definitely hearing your comment, concern.
Thank you.
Sure.
Amanda, there's one question on the chat of if people have an idea for the park that they don't feel is represented in the models presented, what do they do with that? Is there a way to start with, can they offer creativity and start fresh in a way if they have something they feel isn't being represented?
I think the survey is going to be the best way to provide those comments. On the survey, we have some open-ended questions where people can just type in, you know, all of their thoughts. In terms of the layout, you know, we definitely are a little more, you know, as the designers, we need to consider utilities, infrastructure that is underneath the play pits and underneath the sod, and as well as the budget. So maintaining the current, you know, play pit curb wall is important, and working with the framework that we have, as well as, you know, including the existing trees, just how to work around those. So as much as this is an open-ended, bring all of your comments and ideas, you know, just as the designers, we also need to keep some of those things in mind, but I think you need to start with those big ideas. So I think the survey would be a great place to share that and to let us know your thoughts.
There's another question in the chat from Brendan Green. And it says, can we truly start this process from the beginning? It would be beautiful for us to have a meeting or series of meetings where we can create community vision for what we want to see in this park and have an understanding of the budget and be able to make a decision. Mm-hmm. So I will say that we do have that budget that Amanda talked about in the earlier slides. And we're not tied to these 2 options. You know, these are just examples and visuals that we're trying to understand to get something started in terms of how we want to make improvements. And I know Mallory can probably speak a little bit about the difference between an improving a park versus a master plan of a park. Mm-hmm. Mallory, are you with us?
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. And Brendan, thank you so much for bringing that question up, because this is our attempt to kind of reach out to you from the very beginning to get this input. We're totally off base. We want to hear it. We want to hear that, you know, this isn't something we want in the community as an improvement to the playground, but we want more swings, we want more slides, whatever it may be. This was our attempt to kind of give some ideas and start to kind of invigorate your imagination to what you want to see here. Some of the difference between an improvements project and a master planning project is what we would see in a park that's maybe undeveloped or something that's newly acquired that no amenities currently exist at the park. That truly is a process, and I'm actually going through it right now in a park in Green Valley Ranch. that really looks at that visioning process from the very beginning. Do you even want a playground here? Do you want walking paths or whatever that may be? The difference between that process and this one is we already know the amenities that exist here, and we know that the scope in this case, given the budget that we have, deals specifically with improvements to grading of the fields, and then improvements to the playground and kind of a full replacement of the playground. What we really want to emphasize in this is that there's always trade-offs given a budget. We always wish that we had more funds for projects, always. But there's also trade-offs when we're looking at if we're changing kind of the full layout of the playground as it stands now, that could add some more funds to it. If we're looking at maybe a water feature versus swings, you know, there's different costs to each one of them. So we are trying to stay within a budget, and we're really trying to make improvements as it relates specifically to these playground components as well as the basketball court. So what we're doing today is coming to you from the very beginning of these improvements and asking, you know, what do you want to see now that we're replacing this playground? So it's not going to look like a master planning effort where we're saying, you know, we're redesigning the whole park. It's just a little bit of a different scope. So we hear you in the sense that, you know, when we put some pictures up in front of you, that can feel like a decision's already made. We want to hear from you. If those pictures are off, scrap them and send us some pictures, actually. Send us some things that you've seen that you really think would work here at the park. Again, these are just images to really see what, you know, see two different kind of styles and really start considering what style do you prefer and what kind of activities do you want to see here as a part of this improvements project. I apologize, that was a long answer, but we're all ears to hear all of your suggestions you have. So please continue to provide some of these suggestions. I'm loving the comments that I'm seeing. Continue to do so and participate in that survey, please.
And we can add a question to the survey where we can be a little more open-ended. I see that in the chat as well. We can add that in there tonight, just a open-ended, anything else, you know, did we miss anything question? So you can provide those open-ended comments.
There was a question about the budget for this project, and it's not in the slides. However, the budget for design and construction is $847,000, which does seem like a lot, but when we're dealing with, you know, a lot of the different play equipment, it does add up pretty quickly. So we're trying to make sure we're addressing all three items that were, you know, in the original scope of work, which is the playground, basketball court, and the grading at the fields, because I know that is, it is a permitted field. So we want to make sure we're providing the best amenities in that area as well. Meredith, your question about how much does a basketball court cost? It ranges, it depends, but if you're looking at a full-size basketball court, it usually ranges from $150,000 to $250,000, depending on, you know, the foundation, and if we want to add art to it, that's going to be a different component as well.
Mm-hmm. Right, there are trade-offs in the design. If we want play equipment, currently right now there's one play pit. If we want to expand to 2 play pits, we're taking, you know, the same budget and applying it to 2 different spaces, as well as having to, you know, dig for that play pit and curb walls and etc. So there definitely are trade-offs. And it's just understanding what those trade-offs are. If we add a pump track, we may need to modify, you know, the toddler pit or play down the equipment in terms of, you know, theme or customization, things like that. And Stephanie, there was a question, how does the budget for Verbena improvements compare to parks in more affluent areas such as Robinson Park? And how does the budget allocation decisions get made?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Robinson Park. Mallory, is that something maybe you can speak to, since you've been maybe a part of that public engagement over there? Budget allocations are made based on what the scope is and what was brought to us from the community before, or part of our capital improvement project scoping. So playground, basketball court, and grading at the fields, usually those have general numbers associated with it, like the basketball court, for example, we allocate, about $200,000 for that. We allocate money that we have enough for design and bring that into construction documentation. So it varies park to park. I don't have a comparison to Robinson though, I'm sorry. I can look into that though.
Yeah, I don't have much to add from that particular project other than just re-emphasizing what Stephanie said. It's not based on where the park is located, but certain allocation of funding for a playground. So there's a certain number for playground, certain number for basketball courts. So that's kind of how we allocate the funds, is based on that scope.
I'd just like to emphasize too, one of the things that Verbena Park really has going for it is the longevity of it being there, the existing trees, and it's a nice park now. We just really want to be able to provide the certain upgrades to amenities and be able to tie it all together and the functionality a little bit better. But it's as it exists now, it's a beautiful park. It's a nice place to be. So.
Just to circle back around to a couple earlier comments, there is now a question added to the end of the survey where you can voice any additional comments or questions. And if you just click into the survey link again, you can go right to the end to add your thoughts.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay, so I see in the chat that Robinson Park was about the same budget. Okay. So yeah, I mean, from our perspective, I think this definitely, is an improvement project versus, maybe starting from scratch and kind of sky's the limit. But I think what we're hearing is that the playground is important and the basketball court is important. But there are maybe some other interests out there. I've seen a lot of comments on the play equipment, definitely monkey bars and slides, and the basket swing looks like it's a hit. Maybe a pretend house and a play car. So these are all really good ideas that we appreciate. I did see a comment on the dog park. Not sure that can be within this scope, but I think that's something we can talk to Denver about. And when I was there, I definitely noticed that dogs are in the park, and definitely having more dog bag and baskets in that park would be beneficial for sure.
Were there any other last questions or concerns? You can also verbally, you don't have to be in the chat. You can just speak up if you want. We can have a conversation.
It's like Susan is wanting to speak.
Yes, there doesn't seem to be an option for saving the chat with all the links in it. I see an option for file that doesn't get me there.
It is something that is not allowed for our audience, but if you would like a copy of the chat, I can get that to you. If you send me an email, I'll put it in there again because it does save on our end. So I can send that to you.
Okay, where do I give you my email? In the chat?
I'll put mine on there so you don't have to send it publicly.
Well, okay.
If you want to, you can.
But
I'm
the,
going to put it there because I can't copy your email from there.
Got it. Let me send you a private message and then you can send me your email.
Okay.
and the presentation will be on the Denver website with all of this same information. If you are more interested in the survey link and things like that, that is available. Okay, anybody else?
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yes.
you.
Yeah, okay, great. You were talking about funding earlier and which parks get which resources and for which things. I'm wondering what is the best place to find those numbers and kind of analyze that from neighborhood to neighborhood and to actually look at that?
I can jump in on that one if you guys want. So hold on, let me turn on my camera so you can see me. Can you guys see me?
Yes.
So the best place to look for something like that is going to be the city budget. So the difference between this park project and, for example, the Robinson Park project is that this park project is paid for out of the city budget and capital improvement program, as opposed to the Robinson Park project, which is an Elevate Denver bond project. So same scope of work, redoing the basketball court, redoing the playground. This one comes with more money and is coming directly out of the city budget, as opposed to Robinson, which has less money attached to it at $750,000, and it is an Elevate Denver bond project, so not paid for out of the city budget at all. So hopefully that explains a little bit, but the best place for you to see that kind of thing, because there are several different funding mechanisms. There's the general fund operating budget, there's the capital improvement program, both which are within the city budget. Then there's the Elevate Denver bond program, which is essentially using tax dollars to put towards capital improvement projects within the city. So something like some of the parks and some of the neighborhoods that you've been asking about, like Robinson Park, would never be paid for out of the city budget based on our principles of equity. They would always be paid for from some other way, and how they're being paid for is through that Elevate Denver bond project. So hopefully that helps clarify that information a little bit, but happy to answer more questions about that if you need.
Yeah, that does clarify. I'm just thinking there's such a great opportunity here with Verbena Park because it's on the kind of, what we in permaculture we call kind of edge, an edge area that has so much potential and, ability to thrive between two different socioeconomic neighborhoods, and to see it kind of almost as a destination park to kind of draw people out of their little neighborhood parks over to a bigger park with cooler options, let's say. And so there's such opportunity at Verbena, I think, and I know the space is limited, but even that baseball field, I have to say, it's just rarely used, and so rethinking, reimagining stuff like that. And so I'll add comments in the surveys and stuff like that, but such an opportunity if we could get more money even.
And if I can just jump in one more time here, I will say, my kid plays baseball there. Uh-oh, it seems like maybe we have translation.
Like a bicycle rack.
Yeah, basically. Oh, sorry, 1 second, let me mute.
Yep, I don't know what happened. But I think that's a really good point. I think it's definitely, something to consider. And I definitely think we've had some great ideas that have come up here. Like I said, my daughter plays baseball at Verbena Park, and half of the time it can't be played on that field because it's underwater. So the drainage problems are real over there and need to be fixed. Unfortunately, the soccer fields are permitted soccer fields where kids play soccer. I have another daughter who plays soccer there. She'll be there on Saturday. And those fields flood and they are difficult to use, but they are permitted, so they have to stay in those locations. And so that's why they're trying to fix the drainage in this area so that they can be used more. Part of the reason they're not used now is because they're literally unusable half the time when it rains.
Okay, thank you.
Were there any last questions or concerns or comments?
Yes, I wonder how much time people from the city, you all working on this project, have taken to actually observe people at the park and how the park is actually used, which might be just as helpful to you as the surveys. It might actually give you a more complete picture.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. I can't say personally I've gone to see people using it outside of kind of my regular visits to parks. I'm the East District planner, so I oversee pretty much all of the parks east of Colorado Boulevard, so quite a few, but that's when I rely on operations and maintenance staff who are there on a daily basis. You know, they're seeing how parks are used. That's where we get a lot of our on the ground information about the condition of certain areas, any complaints that they're hearing from community members, walking up to them. We have a lot of people approach them as they're using the park to relay some of their concerns, and then that comes back to us. So yes, we are receiving that feedback from one way or another. So there's always opportunities to kind of go out and observe a little bit more, but I'd say that's the vast majority of the on the ground feedback that we get. And it's very helpful because they're there on a regular basis.
If you go to Verbena Park in the evening, when the weather's nice, you will see a great diversity of people and a great diversity of activities taking place in the park. So I encourage you to do that.
Thank you. Thank you for that feedback.
Anybody else?
I was going to add that I put a link, and I can copy it again to stay updated on our email lists. I'm not sure how everybody heard about the meeting tonight, but we try and put in a lot of online spheres, and we will do even more, especially with the council office support, to get it out in the public. But anytime we have an update on a survey or on a next meeting, we will send that out via email. So if you want to sign up for email updates, please click on that link and I will copy it again and share the survey.
And the survey will be available until April 2nd. After we receive all of the input from tonight and from the survey, we will work with Denver to produce a preferred plan that will also be available to the public. And like we said, construction date is anticipated to be January and open by May. So.
Amanda, we had a request if you could show the slide of the whole park one more time.
Sure, just the existing, what it is today, or one of the layouts?
Not sure.
Okay, well, this is just a layout of what 2 play pits could look like. And I will go back to the other one. This is a layout of similar to what is existing there today. What that layout could look like. And then if we back up, This is kind of an overview of the park as it is today. And so you can kind of see the relationship between the playground, the basketball court, and that permitted soccer field. They're all in very close proximity. And I would have to say, to expand the playground out towards this, forgetting the name of this road right here, but you know, there are some grading challenges expanding the play pit out towards the corner here, if you can see my cursor, hopefully, versus expanding it kind of how we have shown. So there is a reason why we've picked those layouts, just looking at grading and utilities and things like that. So.
Do you have time for one more question? Deb, raise your hand.
Sure.
Yeah, as I'm looking at this, you know, I know you have budget concerns, but it looks like there would physically be space to move the basketball court farther to the north while still being west of the soccer field. And that would do a few things. It would create a little extra space between the playground where younger kids play and basketball where it's just different sort of targeted age groups. The other view is actually better, where it sort of showed, yeah. So in other words, so again, cost no object. I know you guys have cost constraints. It feels like you could move the basketball court further to the north so that it lines up with the northern line of the soccer field. Yes. And then that would allow room to have a more comprehensive playground. And it would also create a little more space between kids using the playground and older groups using the basketball courts.
Sure, we do have some wiggle room there. And if, so the existing court, so this, in this layout here, this is a full size court. So this is 50 by 94. So it's quite a bit bigger. So it's a little misleading in terms of space because this court is much bigger, but we do have some wiggle room here, as you're saying. Just trying to give you, typically we want to stay out of the drip line of trees in order to make sure that they continue to thrive. But, you know, if that's not to say that we can't look at what would happen if we remove that tree or move it a little further north. So I think that, yeah, that's a really good comment. Thank you.
Hey, Amanda.
Yeah.
What if you were to move it to the other side of that tree line? So like fully to the north side of the tree line. I think the question was more about using the spread out space. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. Kind of more down this way.
Yes.
We can, it's a possibility. I think that we can explore for sure. I don't, Steve, Kevin, I'm not having the grades in front of me right now. We just, I are some, you know, definitely irrigation that would need to be adjusted, losing some open space, some open turf. A lot of times soccer, these soccer fields need a buffer and kind of practice warm-up space as well. But I think that's an option we can kind of take a look at more.
Yeah, Amanda, I agree. I think that's worth looking at further and possibly even again a little bit, but I do recall there being a little bit more of some grading implications there. And then knowing that this basketball court is half size, if you double it, does it still fit? We'll have to double check.
Right, and it's also the baseball field, if that continues to remain active, we don't want balls flying into the basketball court, so just a little user conflict there. But I think it's definitely something to explore there. And I think it's important in looking at these layouts, you know, I think what we were really looking for in terms of feedback is, you know, that playground. And if we separate the age groups, you know, building a new play pit is going to cost more money than kind of maintaining the current play pit with a basketball court. So that was one of the trade-offs we were kind of looking at to explore. And we'll continue to do so moving forward. I think there are ways that we can maybe achieve both of those goals. So.
Thank you.
And I realize our interpreters may need to be logging off. So if there's any last question, I just want to make sure their time is respected too. Then I think we're good, right? Do you want to go to that last page one more time, Amanda?
Sure. That has, sorry for the flipping here.
Yep.
There we go. There's the link to the survey and the Denver website.
Awesome.
Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate your time and your thoughts on this, and you adding a question to the survey that's open-ended so that the community has an opportunity to share some of their thoughts as well, and really look forward to seeing next steps. Happy to set up whatever more future community meetings we need. So just feel free to contact our office. I put our contact information in the chat, but it's Denver Council 5 at denvergov.org. So feel free to reach out. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Great. We heard a lot of great stuff tonight. Thank you all for joining us. And share the survey. Email us if you have ideas on how to get this out more, and we'll be checking out the park and bringing some fun stuff, I think, is in the mix to try and get some people while they're in action. So thank you all. Anything else, Mallory? Stephanie?
I don't have anything. Just a big thank you to everyone who participated. Thank you so much.